We've been talking about climate change for decades. Conferences, agreements, pledges. It's like a never-ending TED Talk that no one actually follows through on. Since 1995, world leaders have been meeting every year to tackle this crisis. And in 2015, they even signed the Paris Agreement, which set a goal of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. But guess what? Carbon emissions keep going up. At this rate, the only thing we're on track to limit is our own future. Right now, fossil fuels supply 80% of the world's energy. That's coal, oil, and natural gas powering your house, your car, and your favorite AI chatbot girlfriend. Even as renewable energy expands, energy demand keeps growing because, shocker, people like having electricity. But here's a reality check. 3 billion people in developing countries use less electricity per capita per year than the average American refrigerator. That's right. There are entire communities whose annual power consumption is getting shown up by a GE double door stocked with oat milk and LaCroix. So, before we start lecturing developing countries on cutting emissions, maybe we recognize that for them, energy transition means going from no electricity to some electricity. And that often means fossil fuels, because they're cheap, reliable, and, like it or not, the fastest way to power homes and economies. The countries most at risk from climate change, like small island nations, contribute next to nothing to global emissions. Meanwhile, wealthier nations keep promising to help, then conveniently forget their wallets at home when it's time to pay up. And let's talk about the biggest emitters, because depending on which way the political winds blow, they're either promising bold climate action or suddenly developing amnesia. One year, they're setting ambitious net zero targets. The next, they're back to drilling like the dinosaurs left them a personal IOU. And here's another fun fact. Energy transitions take forever. Coal took a century to replace wood. Oil took 80 years to surpass coal. Renewables have grown 50-fold in the last 2 decades, and yet fossil fuel dependence barely budged, from 87% to 85%. At this rate, we'll decarbonize by the time the sun explodes. Yes, we need solar and wind, but let's not pretend they come with no baggage. Scaling them up requires massive amounts of lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, and copper, which, fun fact, aren't exactly growing on trees. They have to be mined, often in environmentally destructive ways, sometimes using labor conditions that would make an 1800s coal baron blush. And building enough renewables to power the world takes enormous infrastructure investments, which is why we're still dragging our feet. And what about the industries that are a real nightmare to decarbonize? Aviation, shipping, cement, steel production, the building blocks of modern life. Long-haul flights need high-energy fuels because batteries are not going to cut it anytime soon. Global shipping moves 80% of traded goods using heavy fuel oil, and cement alone produces 8% of global emissions. But hey, who needs roads and buildings, right? We do have alternatives, like hydrogen-based steelmaking and low-carbon cement, but they're expensive, not widely available, and let's be honest, no politician is winning votes with campaign slogans about subsidizing green cement. Look, quick fixes and magical technologies won't save us. Neither will setting vague climate targets that always seem to end in 5s and 0s. We need systemic change, scaling up renewables, improving energy efficiency, electrifying everything we can, and making some actual tough decisions. That means carbon pricing, huge investments in clean energy, and a plan to get fossil fuel lobbyists out of the driver's seat. And while we're at it, let's stop pretending climate change is something we'll fix later. It's already here. That means adapting, building climate-resilient infrastructure, protecting vulnerable communities, and making sure this transition doesn't just leave half the world in the dust. Solving climate change isn't about a miracle breakthrough. It's about doing the hard, boring, expensive work right now. And yeah, it won't be easy. But the alternative? It's not just worse. It's unlivable. And no, we're not moving to Mars.